think we should start with some comments by, we'll ask first to Adrian, who drove our four-wheel drive Gallardo in the rain, and then see how your feeling was, and maybe Maurizio, then you can add something, since you know technically very well our cars. Adrian, this is to you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that really to race a Lamborghini almost has been a childhood dream. I remember very well when I was 10 years old, going to, my parents took me to see the Italian Job, the film, which obviously had the opening sequence of the Miura going through the mountains. Unfortunately, not such a good end for the Miura, but it was really an iconic opening credits to a film, I think. And ever since then, I've always loved Lamborghinis, and the Countach came out. And I think of the current crop of sports cars, then for me the Gallardo is the prettiest car. I really like it. So to come here to race one, obviously in the wet, I was trying to be careful because beautiful car, I didn't want to modify it in any untoward way, but it was really fun. Good car to drive. The ABS was particularly good in the wet, because so often in the wet where you can go off is by missing your braking point and locking up. So that made it a good car to drive. The four-wheel drive, also of course very good. Really perfect conditions for the car today, I would say.
I have a small question, because let me say, I think from technical point of view, from engineering, to have an opinion of a man like you is really important. And for me, every time I have a question for a man like you that knows so well what happened in a Formula car and in a normal traditional two-wheel drive, what is the difference, and what is your opinion in the race between two and four-wheel drive? Because you know better than me that for Lamborghini the four-wheel drive is part of the DNA of our car, and we are the only one that made a championship with the four-wheel drive, and we are totally different from all the other brands, and we have really fight also with the FIA in order to have homologation for the four-wheel drive, because we continue to say that it's superior to all the other kind of transmission, and normally in the race is not allowed. What is your opinion about four and two-wheel drive in extreme condition, extreme power and extreme adherence condition?
I think, as I say, today in the wet, then the four-wheel drive is a real benefit. It means you have the confidence to, be hard on the throttle without risk of spinning, really. You have to adapt your driving style slightly to try to bead the corner, so come down to quite a low apex speed and then try and get a nice straight exit, so that you can really use the four-wheel drive to pull you out. And I started over the weekend. I've been changing my driving slightly to try to drive in that way, and it's very rewarding when you get it right.
Yes, and Alain, what is your emotion now? What are your feelings about this race, this first race in Silverstone?
Can you hear me? Yes. So yes, of course, a lot of emotion, and I must say that with the big collaboration we have with Lamborghini for 3 years now, more than 3 years, we realize that we can confirm that there's so many common points we have in between a watch and a car, because of course we have the same final customer targets, but when you see the movement, we have a manufacturer of watches and you have a manufacturer of automobile, and in fact it's the same way of constructing a little engine, but it's smaller, and you have like a gang, you have embrayage, you have échappement, you have all these common terms, and also a watch is like the engine of a big car, but smaller. We have the same machine to build our movement, as well as you have the machine to build your motor in Santa Agata. And really, we can confirm that it's a common world of little mechanic. We are, of course, smaller, but tick-tack, tick-tack, it's always working like a motor, and we need to make the calculation, and we need to make the specification, and also the final touch is the difference. As you have the last to be more accurate than another watch, it's a little thing which is the detail remains the most important thing in the end, just to have a half a second and even less and less and dixième and centième of a second to win and to be the best. And we have this with the best manufacturer of cars together with the best manufacturer of watches.
It's funny you say that because we have the same thing. Bring up a patch from a rival manufacturer, but not really a rival to your, a slightly different area in the marketplace, let's say. But we have the same thing, that it's about accuracy, precision, and design. You know, both a car and a watch starts with design, then it's about precision and quality control of the manufacturer.
I totally agree on this because what we have learned also from Blancpain is the mission really to achieve the last millisecond in order to have a precision. This can be in a firing order, can be in a setup of the suspension, but is precision is something that limits must be to be able to measure the last detail, the last number after the common. And normally in the watch is something that is more extreme than in every kind of other items, other technology. And this is something where Blancpain give us, when we visit the facility of Blancpain, it's something really unbelievable. You see something that for us in the car is a mistake, for them is a priority. There are some screw, only to give an example, that is impossible to see. I remember one time Alain said to me, look here, this piece. I said, where? And only with Microsoft you can have a look and say in what way you can build, in what way you can control, in what way you can assemble. But this is a part of the heritage and the competence that Blancpain have, and we have tried really to take care about also this in order to define what can be the limits of our products and to be really sharp like Blancpain is in the watch.
Thank you, Maurizio. I have another question for Adrian. In your experience, is it easier to design and engineer an open wheel car or a GT racing car?
I've only been involved in the design of a GT racing car once, which is actually the first car I was responsible for, which was a GTV car in 1983. I think different. The thing that's easier about an open car is that the closed car starts when you finish the open car, because then you have all the windscreens and doors, and there's so much more to put into it in terms of work. But I mean, they're very much parallel universes, the honest truth.
I have every time another question that for me, like people like me that work on the let me say every time with the limit of homologation. And normally in a super sport car you try to beat every time the rule, trying to reaching the best compromise between rule and freedom, because freedom is a must for engineering. In your job that you race, you have a competition that is you have every way rule, there are constraints. How you use let me say the possibility to bypass rule, or you are really stick like we try to be for safety, we are really straight on this? And I would like to say if it's in the Formula 1 is the same, or you try to take over more as possible rule and let me say solution.
I think one of the very good things that's happened over the years is all the safety regulations that have gone in. If we go back to, I'm afraid I've been a designer for a very long time now, so if I go back to the 80s, then the crash test, the safety regulations were not nearly as defined as they are now. Very often it was just supply some calculations, which could obviously be a little bit creative, let's say, and that was it. So you had this, as a designer, you're faced with this compromise between designing performance, but in the process to save weight and perhaps to improve the aerodynamics, but in the process possibly compromising the safety, which is a very uncomfortable position to be. And the fact is that a driver won't thank you for a safe car nearly as much as he'll thank you for a quick car. You definitely won't thank you for a safe slow car. Now with the regulations we have, then that's all gone. We have very stringent crash tests, specifications, And so providing we pass that, then we have a safe car. Then in terms of the looking through the regulations, then that's really trying to look at what the rules actually say, not what they intend to say, and reading them very carefully, because sometimes it's not the same thing, and you can find an area where what they actually say is not the intention, and unfortunately there is no regulation intent. So very recently at the last race we had another fuss over our floor on the Red Bull where there was a hole in it. It was certainly against the intent of the regulation, but it's not what the regulation said. So we got clarification from the FIA. They said yes, it's legal. We put it on. Other people then start getting upset, let's say, and threaten to protest, and that bit's all a bit boring. But I think it's the old thing, if people aren't complaining and threatening to protest, then it probably means you're slow, so it's actually better to be under fire always.
Just a little thing, because you speak about crash test, but we do also crash test with the watches, even if the consequence of a crash is not so dangerous as with the cars, of course. But you can imagine that in this little box, you do like that, you do like that, you play golf, and you have a little engine who is working check, without any problem. And this is one of the most important points for us. Also with luxury watches, we must be able to do like that. We must be able to drive, to play golf, and we make a lot of crash tests. It's very pity when you see it, but we must have the crash test to be sure that the more accurate the watch, is stronger the watch, even if it's always 24 hours per 24. It's working. You have oil also, and it's like a car which will work for years and years without never stop the engine. And this is something quite impressive.
Now, one more question. Imagine Monday you are the technical director of Lamborghini. What would you change in the Gallardo?
Okay. I can go on. Oh, it's better to say
it's impossible to say. I mean, it's such a hypothetical question. As I say, I think the Gallardo is a great car. It's been a good car to race. It's a very pretty car. It does everything well, and it's designing a road car is very different to designing a race car. Again, it's this parallel universe thing. The technology is very similar. Budget, of course, is one big difference, that we don't have to really worry too much about how much it costs to manufacture the car. Anybody making production cars has to take that into consideration. And we're effectively making a series of prototypes. The cars aren't really, there's no serious production line, there's no, each car has to be exactly the same, but there's no production run of components to speak of.
I have a question now. For the second race, you Alberto, what do you change in the car now to be more competitive?
Well, we should probably change the drivers.
You cannot miss. Second answer, or we must ask to Alberto.
Thank you, welcome. Before the race I said, I don't know which will be our pace in the race, but for the setup point we are with the best one. So now we know that also for the driving side we are in a good position, and Adrian will make the start in next race. So you will enjoy you will enjoy in driving the first laps, I think. But I want to say one thing. In Italy we say when a car works very well, we say works like a watch, and I think it's the right way to say, to describe the Gallardo with the sponsor in this occasion.
Thank you very much.
For those who don't know, Alberto Sabatini is a chief editor of Italian leading motorsport magazine Autosprint. So I think our guests are ready to answer to some questions of you. If you have some questions. Yes.
Just a question for Adrian. racing in series like this, does it give you any insight or help with the day job, or is it just too far removed from Formula One?
It's a very good question. I like to try to say yes because it's easy to justify at work.
Yeah.
I think it helps in terms of understanding what our drivers are feeling.
Yeah.
So it makes it perhaps easier when they make comments for me to translate it into engineering terms.
Some other questions? Yes?
Down there.
You can speak loud, or you can come to the microphone. as you
I'm very
prefer.
loud. I'm from GT Planet, Gran Turismo. You're famous for being the lead designer of the X2010, X2011 prototype. Do you see the closed cockpit as being the way that Formula One's going to go? Do you think it's going to give Red Bull a bit of a leg up?
So the question was about closed cockpits
Yeah.
for the future of Formula One, which has been a much discussed subject following 2 or 3 nasty accidents where the worst one unfortunately being Henry Surtees, who lost his life at Brands Hatch when a wheel came off. It is a concern, and there's been a lot of discussion about should we have fighter style canopies, should we have forward roll bars, what should we do? In truth, it's a very difficult one. Fighter style canopies are going to be hugely expensive. You'd have to have explosive bolts, all the sorts of things that you need to get them off quickly, so if the car's upside down you can get the driver out. Forward roll hoops have their own problems as well, particularly visibility. Alberto saying that he drove the Audi LMP car, and you can see from the pictures he's taken, the in-car camera shots, the visibility is absolutely appalling. So then you start having accidents as a result of visibility, as McNish obviously had last year. So it's a complicated subject. I think what is very important is that what happens in Formula One should be at a cost that can then be used in other formulas. And that's probably where the canopy falls down, because the cost is likely to be of the order of £50,000 or £100,000 per canopy. Clearly in a GP3 car, it's not practical. So it's a subject of lots of debate at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some other questions? One more?
Otherwise, television in my hand.
Right. One for Adrian. You say the first car you designed was a sports car. Are there likely to be any others once your Formula One days are over? Perhaps with Lamborghini, for example?
Yes, that's the retirement question on Formula One. I think, excuse me, I'm struggling with this one. Probably not in terms of sports racing cars. I think Formula One is tremendously interesting, and it's obviously has the budget to be able to do a lot of research, which I enjoy that side of it. So there seems a little point for me going from, say, Formula 1 to LMP. They're too closely related. I might as well just stay in Formula 1. The workload's the same, etc. Some years ago I looked at America's Cup. To be perfectly honest, not out of any huge interest in yachting as such, but used it for the third time, the word parallel universe, where if you come outside of the global motorsports umbrella, so including rallying, including motorcycling and so forth, and you say, where else is there, perhaps watches, sorry Alan, then where else is there that combination of sport, the sportsman and technology? And yes, of course you have things like cycling and tennis and skiing, but they're not the sort of budgets going into the equipment. The only other area really is yachting, and all the techniques the same in terms of hydrodynamics, control systems, lightweight composite structures. But having looked at it, I decided it was actually probably about the only sport that's more antisocial in terms of time away from home and motor racing. So, I don't know, it's a long rambling answer to say I don't know, I'm afraid.
Thank you. So, I think we can close here, and I thank Adrian Newey, Alain Delamuraz, Maurizio Reggiani, Alberto Sabatini. Good luck for next race, and enjoy sunny Silverstone. Thank you.